our candidates there as they come to the stage. I'll introduce them in alphabetical order from left to right. Mike Cox, let's give him a round of applause. And John James. And Eric Nesbitt. And Ralph Reban. And what a thrill it is to have these four gentlemen here this afternoon. Let's see, a couple VIP folks in the audience that we want to acknowledge. Tom McMillan serves on the State Board of Education. We want to thank you, sir. And then we do have some other candidates running for statewide office today, and hold your applause, but Anthony Forlini for Secretary of State, Doug Lloyd for Attorney General, Julie Madej for MSU Board of Trustees, Terrence Collins, who's running for the State Board of Education, and State Senator Roger Victory, who's running for the MSU Board of Trustees. Let's give them all a round of applause for being here as well. Then I'm going to open us with a word of prayer, and then we're going to stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do I see a flag anywhere around here? Somebody can produce a flag, that would be awesome. It's up there. Okay, very good. Would you all stand with me as we pray? Father, it's an honor and a privilege to live in a free country. It's an honor and a privilege to know, God, that your hand has been upon us as a country and upon us as a state. It's an honor to have these men here today to discuss the issues that are of importance to all of us. We pray for your blessing on this time. We pray for understanding and wisdom and discernment and enlightenment, Lord. And we ask you to bless this time together in Jesus' name. Amen. And let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag up there next to CTV. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Please be seated. This forum is a nonpartisan voter education forum sponsored by MiCHN and by Citizens for Traditional Values. And neither organization has endorsed any of these candidates, and so this is meant to be just information time. We want to understand their views on the issues, and we want to understand things specifically to this audience that we care about, things like the family, life, religious freedom, and education, which is central to all and parental rights, central to all of us here in this room. Some of the issues that are being talked about in the public will not be featured here today. Things like energy or inflation and election integrity, which I'd like to talk a lot more about, government transparency, etc. So we've tried to focus it on the issues that are important to you as the audience. So a couple things. Would you please silence your phone right now? That would be great. And then anybody who has an impulse to chant or boo or scream or yell or stand up, just don't do it. We would appreciate that. You can't applaud at the appropriate times. I'll tell you when that's going to be. Signs are not permitted. And the questions were chosen by a panel of us from the two organizations. And the candidates have not been apprised of what the questions will be prior to this event. And so for the candidates, I said this beforehand, this is a forum, not a debate, so there won't be any formal rebuttal time. If you wish to address something another candidate said, please do it within the time constraints of your answer to the current question. All right, so with that being said, we're going to begin. Each candidate, we drew an order for the opening and closing statements, and we'll go in that order. And they have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and we're going to ask a series of questions that will be 1-minute responses, series of questions with 30-second responses, and then each candidate will be given 3 minutes for a closing statement. So I appreciate everyone paying attention and being engaged from the beginning to the end. All right, it's time for opening statements, and Mr. Eric Nesbitt was the first one up, so let's welcome Eric Nesbitt.
Thanks for showing up. The first step of winning and beating the Democrats in Jocelyn Benson this fall is actually showing up to protect our religious freedoms. I'm Eric Nesbitt. I'm running for governor because right now in Michigan, it's just tough for families, our job providers, and our kids to actually make it here in Michigan. I'm running for governor so that everybody can make it in Michigan. I grew up on a small farm in southwest Michigan where I learned the values of hard work, family, community, faith, going to church on Sundays, knowing the values of right and wrong, knowing the difference between a girl and a boy. I'd probably be the first homeschool kid since the log cabin days to be governor, and proud of that. I went on to Hillsdale College, worked 5 jobs going through Hillsdale, did my economics degree, and if you know anything about Hillsdale College, you understand why individual liberty and religious freedom are so important. A beautiful wife, wonderful 3 kids, and this is where it starts. Is that 6 years ago under COVID, I was driving my wife to the OB's office. Governor Whitmer and the Democrats' lockdowns wouldn't let me go into the office. I had to wait in the car. And waiting in the car, I heard from my wife via text that we lost our second-born to a miscarriage. The worst thing that could happen to a parent, and I couldn't be there comforting her because of Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing. As your next governor, that will never happen again. I'm running for governor so families can make it in Michigan. I'm going to eliminate the state property tax so job providers can make it in Michigan. Take a flamethrower to the bureaucracy and red tape in Lansing. And so our kids can make it in Michigan by protecting homeschoolers, expanding school choice, and ripping out this woke trans nonsense from our schools. I'm going to stand with President Trump to deport every criminal illegal and ban sanctuary cities. That's how you make sure everybody can make it in Michigan.
Next up will be John James.
Well, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so glad to be with you here today. It's a reminder of how and why we're here in the first place. That we're endowed by our Creator certain inalienable rights that are among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In the state of Michigan, those inalienable rights have been put into jeopardy. We have to remember here that there are powers and principalities that are at play. And we have to remember who the true enemy is. Put on the armor of God so we can stand against the devil and his evil schemes, recognizing that our rights are endowed to us by our Creator, not the government. This is extremely important because each one of us care about and love our children and know how to do that better than the government. The very first relationship that the good Lord established on this earth was the relationship between him and man. The second, between man and woman. And the third, between parents and children. But right now in Michigan, those relationships are under threat. We have to recognize where the battle lines are so that we can stand up and make sure never again. Our kids belong to God, not the government. And so making sure we stand up for parental rights, making sure we stand up to protect the innocence of children, and make sure we remember that the foundation of government is families. And protecting your rights is what I will do as governor. From the day that I start until I take my last breath. That is my assurance to you. As somebody who has fought for this country, who's gone to war, been an Apache pilot, who is Ranger qualified, who's serving now currently in Congress, who's sworn an oath to the Constitution, and who is here standing before you here today running for governor, I'm excited for the opportunity that we have to make Michigan the free state of Michigan once again. God bless you. Thank you for coming.
Okay, now we'll have Mr. Ralph Reband.
Homeschooling your children is the most important work that's being done in Michigan right now. How many of you, by a show of hands, feel that Lansing doesn't agree with your homeschooling process and ideas? It's exactly what I thought. How many of you think that government should be involved in your life to every little detail? That's what I thought. On this stage, there's an individual who voted to put a kill switch in your car. On this stage is an individual who has taken $700,000 every time you pay your bills. Your tax money has gone to re-election campaigns. That's wrong. On this stage, when asked about abortion last Friday night, this individual said, it's in the Constitution, I don't know what else to do about it. I can't do anything until it changes. My friends, I am not starting to protect your children when I become governor. I've been doing that for 35 years. As a pastor, we hosted homeschools in our church. Some of you may remember Gene and Robin Newman, who were on The Fight with David Kallman. Back in the day, late 80s, early 90s, they were at our church. Michael Ferris, who's running home defense for homeschools, he serves on the Council for National Policy with me. Friends, I went to the homeschool Lansing Day last fall. That's how much I love you guys and love your kids. My wife and I have homeschooled our grandkids, giving our daughter-in-law a break once a week. We did that because we wanted her to enjoy the process. And so as I look at everybody here this afternoon, I'm just here to tell you that I am all in on you. I'm all in on helping you. I'm not talk, I'm all in.
Mr. Mike Cox, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
First and foremost, let me tell you, I'm grateful to be here today. If you want to know what I want to do about the economy and those other issues that James mentioned in passing, go to my website, MikeCox2026.com. But let me tell you what's really on the ballot in November. Freedom is on the ballot in November. Freedom. Freedom from government that takes too much of your money. Freedom from government that shuts down schools and churches and companies like mine, or try to. Freedom from kill switches. And again, religious freedom is on the ballot in November. Remember, the first, as Thomas Jefferson told us, the very first freedom is the freedom of religious expression. And he said that was a motivation for the Bill of Rights, to protect religious people from the tyranny of government. We have to keep that in mind. So how do you protect freedom in November? You have to elect someone first in August who can actually win and represent you. There's only one person on this stage who's ever won a statewide race against Democrats. I won the closest statewide race when I became Attorney General. I beat Gary Peters, the only person who ever beat Gary Peters who was a Republican. And when I went there, when I won the closest statewide race, I was emboldened to do and fight for big things, including homeschooling, school choice. I fought against woke elites. I helped put an affirmative action ban in our Constitution. I said no to the Secretary of State issuing driver's license to illegals. I stood up to big energy, big pharma, big insurance, and I won for the people of Michigan. And as your governor, I will do it again. Because I remember People versus DeJong, which Mr. Kallman won in 1983, and I read about as a young prosecutor. There, Justice Riley said that we must protect religion. We must understand that religious oppression came about, or was religious oppression led to our First Amendment. It's the first protection in our First Amendment, and I will keep it and protect it as your governor. Thank you very, very much.
Good job, Mr. Timekeeper. Okay, we're going to now move to the panel questions, and first up is Dave Kallman. Remember, you have 1 minute each, and we're going to ask you to stay seated for this, so we're not wasting time getting up and down, if that's okay. Appreciate that. Dave, you have the first question, sir.
Great, thank you, and thanks again for being here this afternoon. First question, please briefly describe your own personal faith and how it would guide your decisions as governor.
And we'll start on the left here with Mike first on this one, and then John will go first for the next question.
I'm a Roman Catholic. I went to 12 years of Catholic education. My dad was Irish, but he lived in Scotland. He suffered religious persecution there, and he immigrated here for more economic opportunity and freedom from religious oppression and persecution. So while I'm a Catholic, I understand that all God-fearing people need to be protected. And I understand that the first Bill of Rights is the most important bill. And before we get to freedom of the press, before we get to freedom petition or lodge grievances against your state, your federal government, we have the freedom of religious expression, and I will honor that as your governor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, John, same question.
So, I am a sinner, saved by grace through my faith in him. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ died and rose for me, and I do my best to live and be a living example of his love. Before I got here, I asked the Lord to hide me behind his purpose and behind his message, that his light could shine through me so it could be an example and motivational to draw more onto him. And so I plan to be a governor who will submit to the Lord and serve his people, because the solutions that we have, the solutions we need for the problems we have today, are not going to come from any man-made power, but through the power of Christ himself. And so I'm committed to him to serve the Lord and to serve his people. And my personal walk is extremely important to me, and I think will accrue to the benefit of the state of Michigan.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks. I grew up in a middle of 5 kids, an evangelical Protestant family. I was saved at a young age, baptized Bankston Lake at 8 years old, and that's what's driven me this whole time is the relationship with Jesus Christ, my Savior. I'm a sinner. We're all sinners. And we know, looking up at Jesus Christ, that he provides a lot of hope and answers. As challenging as things are here in Michigan, in America, around the world, is that that's our steady guidepost as we continue to grow. And having 3 young kids now, it's troublesome on this woke nonsense that's being infiltrated into our schools, into our society. And this is why it's going to be so important for us as we go into this fall to make sure the Democrats and Jocelyn Benson are defeated, and to make sure that we protect our religious liberties here in Michigan.
Amen. All right, thank you. Mr. Redan.
Thank you, Dave. This is a softball question for me. As a pastor, folks, I grew up in a Christian home. I walked an aisle at 4 years old. I knew that I needed Jesus as my Savior because I was a sinner at 4 years old. Yes, you guys know your own kids are like that too. But I'm a born-again, Bible-believing, Spirit-filled Christian who has a biblical worldview. The question was, how will that affect what I'm going to do? And the answer is really simple. We are going to get back to our founding principles because our founding principles are based on biblical truth. And by doing that, we are going to see God's truth filter into society, which, when you read the book of Proverbs, it says, when the wicked are in authority, people groan, but when the righteous rule, people rejoice. And there's going to be a whole lot of rejoicing, not because of me, but because we're going to be implementing God's will for people's lives.
Thank you. Eileen.
So it's January 2027, and you are the newly elected governor of Michigan. What are your top priorities and first actions once you take office?
Have Mr. James go first.
Well, I'm excited that on the first day, if Gretchen Whitmer does not opt in to the educational tax credits for families, I will opt in day 1. That is extremely important, and it's something that I helped get passed as a part of President Trump's leadership in Washington, working family tax cuts. This is money that is for you, that other states are benefiting from, that Gretchen Whitmer is not allowing you to. And most importantly, there are no strings attached. There are no obligations. These are private scholarship dollars that are intended for you to use to send your child where they will be safest and most successful. And then the second thing I'll do, I know we're not supposed to be talking about energy and other things like that, but repealing these harmful Green New Deal Marxist communist mandates that are driving up the cost of everything from gas to electricity, and doing everything in my executive power to put more power and authority into your control and more money in your pocket.
Very good.
Thanks, Eileen. I mean, the last 8 years have been devastating the state of Michigan. The attacks on parental rights, the attacks on religious freedom, the attacks on limiting school choice and working to go after some of you here. Day 1, I'm going to sign President Trump's tuition tax credit to provide better school choice and more open school choice for families. I'm going to work to rip out this infection of DEI and wokeism that's infiltrated not just our schools, but our government. I mean, I was recently in Wayne County, and there was a 12-year-old that was sent to the office because he refused to use a they-them pronoun to another boy in school. God bless this kid. After he got down to the principal's office, he goes, I thought with President Trump in office, we didn't have to do this silliness anymore. I'm going to have that kid's back as the next governor of Michigan.
Ralph, you got the same question.
Well, we are not waiting for the first day of the office. We have been working hard. My team has uncovered $11 billion that we can cut from the budget. You may remember 85 billion was 2025, 26 is 80 billion. The Republicans dropped it. The Democrats in the Senate want to take it to 88. Republicans said no in the House. We're going to fight for 76. Ours gets it down to 69. I am very serious about what we're doing there. I have a veto pen in my pocket that I'm going to use, and the reason why I'm very serious about this, and Eileen, this is not just about budget, this is about the next generation. In 5 years, we will be bankrupt at the rate we are spending money here in Michigan. I don't want our children to have to leave our state in order to live the American dream. We're going to make the American dream worth living right here in Michigan. And so I'm not running to climb the ladder, I'm not running to look for the next election, I am running for the next generation.
Thank you, Eileen. If you go to my website, MikeCox2026.com, you're going to see my two primary priorities. Number one, as a small business owner the past 15 years, I understand this, that you do better, people do better when the government has less money, and that you have more money. So I'm the first person to propose to eliminate the state income tax. I declared on tax day last year, and I've been talking about it for a year and a half. Why? Because more freedom means more prosperity. Number two, you may be aware of this, you're in the homeschool community, but our fourth graders in the rest of the schools are 48th in the nation. Only two states are behind us in fourth grade reading. My granddaughters in Mississippi are taught phonics. Their public schools are graded, and they're required to read by the third grade. They are doing better. They moved from 49th to 9th. It's a moral imperative that all children be able to read. And all children, if they can read, they can prosper. As your governor, I'm going to work on those two things. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Mike, you have the next question.
All right, switching gears, man, to education. What do you view as the role of parents in the education of their children?
We'll start with Eric Nesbitt.
Well, thanks. The last 8 years under Governor Whitmer and the Democrats, we've seen the onslaught that they want to co-parent your kids with you. As your next governor, there's going to be no government co-parenting with you. We're going to preserve our religious liberties. We're going to work to make sure we protect homeschoolers, and we're going to expand school choice for families that want to take that option. And we're going to root out the woke DEI trans nonsense that's invading our schools. You look at it overall in terms of schools here in the state of Michigan, we have to be able to expand our skilled trades so that people are ready to work, so that people can actually experience that. And this is why it's so important that we show up this fall to make sure that Jocelyn Benson gets nowhere close to the governor's office. Because we know if we think it's bad now, it's going to get even worse with Jocelyn Benson, and this is why it's so important you guys show up this year.
Very good. Great. Ralph?
I mentioned that I'm a pastor and I live my life according to the Word of God. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old he will not depart from it. Ephesians 6 says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but train them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Deuteronomy 6 says, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up, train your children. It is biblically based that parents are responsible for the training of their children. The other point that I would make is this. We have so many attacks on you guys right now. There was a Senate bill in 2024. It was Senate Bill 285. When that bill came out, the government wanted warrantless access into homeschool homes. I got my pastors' networks around the state to write letters, to get their churches involved, to call people here in Lansing to say, this is evil, this is wrong. That's how dedicated I am to protecting your rights.
Well, in the Ten Commandments, we're told to honor our parents. And that was the very first instruction that the parents, that I'm aware of, that parents are the first teachers. And I recognize that. I recognize that as Attorney General. when I was recruited and I ran because I was pro-choice for schools and for parents. And when Governor Granholm tried to tell charter school students you couldn't go back to public schools if you didn't like your charter schools, I said no. I issued an order that allowed charter schools to help flourish. I was part of the initial fight for the homeschools back in the early 2000s. I will do that as your governor. But as I said, we have a moral imperative that all children learn. So I will adopt the Mississippi Miracle. It was a miracle for my family when my autistic granddaughter in kindergarten was told she would have to read by 3rd grade, and she did, by God, by fundamentals. And I will follow that as our governor. Thank you very, very much.
Great question. And direct answer is 3 things: choice, curriculum, and common sense. I believe very strongly in school choice. I want public schools to be successful, private schools to be successful, charter homeschooling. There should be no wrong way for you as parents to determine how your child will be safest and most successful. 2, curriculum. For any curriculum, there should be an opt-in, especially with some of this, the ideology that folks are pushing. Your child is your responsibility, and the government should come second to parents. And then 3rd, common sense. Right now, on both sides of the state, from Rockford to Rochester, parents are having to go to court to sue for their rights over their children. If somebody is behind the scenes trying to convert or alienate their child from their parents, that's going to be wrong, and they will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Thanks.
Okay, Dave, you have the next question, and Eric will go first.
Michigan's 3rd grade reading proficiency has been declining to 44th, and we just heard from A.G. Cox that 4th grade is 48th. Describe your educational philosophy and goals and the best way to increase literacy in Michigan.
Yeah. Under Governor Whitmer and the Democrats over the last 8 years, we've seen what not to do. They went ahead and limited school choice. They repealed some of these read by 3rd grade level laws, and we've fallen back to a bottom 10 state in education. And God bless you who's out there that's taken the time to educate your own children, to raise them, to help make sure that they're able to succeed in this world. As a homeschool kid myself, somebody that worked their way through Hillsdale College, I salute you for that. And as somebody who's raising 3 kids right now, my wife, it is so important that we tackle and take out this woke DEI nonsense that's infecting our schools, that we provide real choice. I'm going to sign President Trump's school choice tax credit on day 1, and that we make sure that we get back to the basics of phonics and the science base of reading and bring back private tutoring. So thanks so much for being here, and thanks for the question.
Very good, thank you.
So Michigan Compile Law 380.10 states it is the natural and fundamental right of parents and legal guardians to determine the education of their children. Schools must work with parents to that end. It doesn't say parents work with schools, it says schools must work with parents. It is parental responsibility, not only in the Christian homeschool or a homeschool network, but it's the responsibility of parents in every avenue. What I'm going to do is actually dismantle the entire public school system and rebuild it with parental involvement. That's what happened in our early days as a country. In fact, when there was over in New England, when there was a town that grew large enough where they wanted a school for the children, there were 2 people that sat on the school board. They were both pastors. They were the ones that chose who was going to be the teacher to their kids. That's what I'm looking to do, folks, to get Christians involved, whether you're homeschooling, whether you're outside the homeschool network. We need to get back into the school system to get rid of the indoctrination, and I too would sign President Trump's tax credit.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Right?
Thank you, Dave. I actually say 48th because we're tied with 4 other states. That means there's only 2 states behind us. So that's transparency, right? Look, I would follow the model of Mississippi for public schools, which is, again, mandatory phonics for all K through 3rd graders. Grade all schools, so that parents, grandparents, and taxpayers know how the local schools are doing. Provide more choice. And then if a student is struggling as early as kindergarten, as my granddaughter, who was autistic, was, she got a tutor. They do it with 40% less money than we do. We can do that too, but we have to accept that we have a moral responsibility to make sure all children learn. Now, I know the folks here, the children here are covered, because we know from studies that homeschoolers do up to 30% better than the rest, or than public school kids. But if our society is going to move forward, we need to stop teaching the DEI and focus on the ABCs. But we need a winner, and someone who can actually get it done next January. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. John?
Yes, thank you. Protect school choice and your ability to direct your children's education and their futures. We need to focus on the fundamentals. That means literacy, numeracy, and truancy. Following the models that work. My parents were from the Jim Crow South. They came up to Michigan for better education, better opportunities. Now, as a result of Whitmer and her cronies, it looks like our children, without intervention from each of us, may have to leave to find it. Mississippi is spending $6,000 to $7,000 per pupil less than we are here, and they have among the fastest accelerations in reading because they have accountability standards for third grade reading level prior to moving folks forward. I'm going to be implementing that, making sure that we have academics prioritized over activism, and that we have a ballot initiative and any legislative effort possible I'm going to be leading to get the Michigan Board of Education to report to the governor and the superintendent to report to the governor, so that money is pushed down to our families for you to determine how to use it.
Next question. Some of you have touched on this a bit. Last fall, the State Board of Education made an update, a so-called update, to the health curriculum standards to incorporate the LGBTQ+ agenda and sex education instruction, which should always be and has been optional for public schools, into the required health curriculum standards. What's your response to that, and how might you change that if you're governor?
I think that comes to me. Yes, thank you, Eileen. I was actually involved with that. I was the only candidate running for governor that showed up to Lansing when that open mic was there to speak against it. I showed up the first time and spoke against it. I was out of the state for the second one, and I drafted a pastor's letter to the State Board of Education saying we do not want sex ed in the health curriculum. So as I drafted that, there were probably 50 pastors who signed on to it, and there were pastors who came to that meeting to represent the ideals that we were promoting. What I would do, folks, is get it back. As I said, we have to get everything back into the hands of the parents. I'm tired of the school boards that are woke. I'm tired of the Board of Education that's liberal. People that are telling you what to do with your kids. In fact, if you go to my website, revampforgovernor.com, look at the videos. There's a video from Oklahoma called "Who is in Charge of Our Children?" Everyone and all of your friends should watch that. Friends, it is chilling. It is chilling.
Thank you very much.
Well, first and foremost, it's not enough to talk about it. We have to walk the walk. And that means, like I said, if you want freedom and freedom of parental choice defended next year, you have to make the right choice in August. You have to choose a winner, someone who will stand up for people and has done it before. So let's talk about what happened at the State Board of Education. They are part of helping to spend $24 billion of your dollars, but they can't do it without a governor's signature. So I would defund the State Board of Education, any school district, any ISD that tried to implement this strategy. Ultimately, like in your home with your children, you know, whether you use allowance or something else, or they want something, you as a parent have the power of the purse. And the governor has the power of the purse with his signature. I've used it before. I've been an executive both in the private sector and as your Attorney General. I will do it again, and I will defund anyone who tries to impose these kind of conditions. Thank you.
John?
I think it's totally inappropriate to be teaching a third grader anything about sex. I think it's totally inappropriate for strangers to be able to twist your children's minds without you knowing about it. Among the first things I would do to enforce the law is to enforce the law against somebody who would go behind your back to do this. If it is not okay for consenting adults to do this at work, then why is it okay for adults to do this behind your back with minor children at school? These are things that are important. Protecting your rights and protecting our children's innocence as a father of 3 small boys will be my mission, my primary mission, protecting our families as governor.
Boy, the war on our kids is real. The last 8 years of what we've seen out of this administration, the Democrats here in Lansing, they continue to try to sexualize our kids, continue to attack our kids, and just letting them, growing up on a farm is just like, let girls be girls, let boys be boys. Who knew 10 years ago, even just 10 years ago, that that'd even be a debate? This is the challenge that we're in right now for stepping up. Is that how do we make sure that our kids are being taught the 26 letters of the alphabet instead of these 26 pronouns? It's nuts, it's crazy, and as your next governor, I'm going to stand up to make sure that nobody co-parents with you, especially the government. And as your next governor, we're going to rip out this nonsense that's happening to our kids.
Okay, our final education question. What is your view on the controversies over transgender sports in schools and allowing the use of opposite-sex bathrooms and locker rooms?
Me? Yeah, okay. Well, of course I'm against it. I find it reprehensible. It goes against all our shared Judeo-Christian values, right? And we have to get out and we have to fight it each and every day. As I referred to earlier, we are in a battle. In November, freedom is on the ballot. Freedom of conscience is on the ballot. And if you want to make a difference next year, if you don't want to live through 7.5 more years of darkness, you're going to have to nominate a Republican who can actually talk to independents and Democrats and convince them. Talk to them like President Trump did, a fighter and a winner. I'm proud to say that when President Trump was worried about the 2024 election, he went out and hired a fighter to represent him in court. I'm proud to say that I was hired by Unlock Michigan, worked not side by side with Mr. Kallman, but separately in order to defend your rights. I will be a person on all these issues who stands up and protects Michiganders, you and your children and families. That's what you need as next governor. Thank you.
This goes right along the lines of protecting the innocence of our children, protecting our girls, to make sure that our little girls can maintain their right to compete on a level playing field and not, frankly, risk injury doing it. Also, respecting their innocence and their privacy in their bathrooms. These are private, sacred spaces that should be protected. And also, respecting our boys. Our boys are in a crisis and no one's talking about it. Our boys are leading in areas like dropping out, addictions and suicides. We need to make sure that we are applying the understanding that boys and girls are created equal in the eyes of God, but they are different and special. And protecting their innocence is very important. I'm going to be doing that as governor, and anybody who gets in the way of that is going to have to answer to me. So again, opting in because you have not delegated that authority to unelected bureaucrats. And if something comes up, you should know about it, and nothing should be held between you and your kid.
Isn't it amazing we're even being asked the question because the other party that says they believe in science and trust the science can't even believe basic biology? I mean, as a farm boy growing up on a dairy farm, we had the steers over here. They went off to market to make Big Macs, and we had the dairy cows over there to make your milkshakes. I mean, that's just basic biology, guys. And having a young daughter who's 6 years old, turning 7 next week, this is personal to me. This is personal to me. It's something where I can't even imagine that we're even debating this right now. And so we got to protect the innocence. We got to make sure that we follow the basic biology that's out there. And we got to protect our young girls. And we also have to protect our young boys so that they can actually make it here in the state of Michigan again, so that they can actually be successful here. And as your next governor, I'm going to stand up for each of our kids to make sure that happens.
Very good, thank you. All right. Moving on, Dave has the next question.
I didn't get that.
Did not? I am so sorry, Mr.
All right.
You are next up. Go
You
on.
know, Jesus said, whoever offends one of these little children should have a millstone hung around their neck and thrown into the deepest sea. That's the heart of God for protecting young people and children and their innocence. That's where I'm coming from. Friends, I'm telling you, the LGBTQ issues, those, especially when you get into transgender and stuff, these are mental health issues. I'm willing to be on the record and say that. These are mental health issues that have to be addressed. We don't address, I mean, look at all the shootings that have taken place. I bet 100% or 99 out of 100 have been transgender people. I love them, but we're not helping them by just letting them go into men's bathrooms and girls' bathrooms and vice versa. And that's not helping anybody. They need to know who they are in the image of God, male and female, two genders.
All right. Thank you. Apologize. Okay, Dave, you have the next question.
Switching to an issue near and dear to my heart, religious liberty. What are your views on the First Amendment's religious liberty clause, especially regarding government policies affecting the conscience rights of pastors, churches, medical providers, faith-based institutions, teachers, service members? What's your view on how the First Amendment protects people in these areas?
John first.
So I love the Bill of Rights, especially because James Madison wrote them and ratified in 1791, because for our founding fathers, the Constitution alone wasn't good enough for them to protect rights that are endowed to us by our Creator. The first priority was religious freedom, because of where these people came from and how their understanding of what can happen with a tyrannical government. So protecting religious liberty, I believe, is the #1 priority of anybody who wants to lead the state. And so the state cannot impose anything that would violate your religious liberty, whether you're working as a teacher, the medical profession, or trying to raise your children in the way they should go, and so when they're older, they won't depart from those ways. These are rights that belong to you, that are given to you by God, and will be protected by me as your governor.
As we celebrate 250 years as a country this year, we're a young country, but we have the oldest constitution in the world because our rights come from our Creator. Those radicals back in the 1700s believed in the individual over the government, believed in families over the state. As your next governor, I'm going to work to protect those. And we've seen what it's like when we don't have somebody that watches out for our own religious liberties. You saw that during COVID. You saw the mandates, closing down churches, preventing folks from actually being able to show up, practice their own religious liberties. This is why this election is so important, because we know Jocelyn Benson and the Democrats will continue on putting more authority, more power into the government, less power to you, the people, less power for those that actually believe in religious liberty. And so as your next governor, I'm going to make sure our First Amendments are protected and our religious freedoms are protected.
Dave, thank you for the question, and thank you for all you've done for religious freedom here in Michigan. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Congress, the government, has no right to intervene in your religious activities, whether they're on a Sunday morning or whether they're during the week. If you recall, back in Hillary's day, she was trying to convince everybody of the lie that's been perpetrated, that there's such a big wall that church and state aren't even interact with each other. The bottom line is the state must not interact with the church, but our founders said the church must interact with the state. That's why John Adams said our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate for any other. If you miss that point, you get to where we are today. We've got to bring back our founding values, and I appreciate you again, Dave, for everything you've done for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but it matters who the governor is, all right? We all agree on the concept of religious liberty. I know that Thomas Jefferson, who wasn't the most religious man, said that the first right is, in fact, religious expression. And that's why we have the First Amendment now. I also know that this man down here 2 years ago had a case in front of the Michigan Supreme Court, facing off against 6-1 Whitmer appointees. And he defended the right of an event center to say no to same-sex lesbian marriage. He defended the right of a hydrologist to say, no, I recognize that God creates one sex or two sexes and they're immutable. He defended that. But if we don't have a governor who's going to appoint people to the Civil Rights Commission, if we don't have an attorney general who will defend it, and we don't have a governor who's going to lead the conversation, it all doesn't matter. You need someone who's walked the walk and won before. Thank you very much.
So along those lines, in light of the Michigan lockdown during the COVID pandemic, please describe your position on government policies with regard to vaccines in particular and other mandates.
And Eric, you're first on this one.
Well, thanks. We saw what happened. You know, my own personal experience. I worked to sue this governor to reopen our state, went out to do unlocked Michigan petitions to make sure we reopen the state, worked to hold the governor accountable. That Governor Whitmer, we saw based, she said it was on science and data, it was all on public relations and polling data, we all know that. As they ripped away our liberties. I mean, heck, I hired a staffer that was kicked out of the Army because he refused to take the jab. And with young kids myself, I saw the nonsense that happened when they were 1, 2, 3 years old of masking and what they had to deal with. And we see that with the closure of schools during that time, that the average student's 3/4 of grade level behind. And so I pledge to you as your next governor, what happened under COVID can never happen again, and I'll make sure that that never happens again.
So in order to understand what happened during COVID, you have to understand what medical science is all about. First of all, there's what's called randomized controlled trials. Those are trials that are done that would test what's actually going on. Then once those trials are done, they go to peer review, where your doctor friends are challenging your proposition. And that's exactly what happens in figuring out what is really real. That never happened under COVID. They just paraded experts in front of us saying, this is what the experts say. This is Fauci. This is Burke. And I will tell you this, folks, even though Fauci has been pardoned on the national level, he can still be brought up under charges here in Michigan. I intend to do that because I'm sick of whatever happened to every parent who died and people at our church who died in nursing homes and hospital rooms. That's never going to happen again, and we're going after them.
Thank you, Eileen. I feel like you gave me a softball. As Attorney General, I issued an order that public health officers could not stop those objecting out of taking the shot from taking the shot or their children taking the shot. The law actually said religious or other objection. And I told county health officers, including Macomb and elsewhere, you cannot interfere with parents' rights. Subsequent to that, unfortunately, during the Snyder time, the legislature added a new requirement that parents have to go to a school from the county health officer. So I've always been against forcing parents and families to take a vaccine. Number two, as I mentioned earlier, I represented Unlock Michigan. Who here signed the Unlock Michigan petitions? I represented you in front of the Court of Appeals, in front of the Supreme Court against Whitmer and her stooge, Mark Brewer, and I beat them twice. So it's not talk is talk, it is walking the walk. And you need someone, there's men here, you need someone who's going to stand up for you and fight for you, and more importantly, win for you.
Hey, John?
So if you go to my website, johnjamesmi.com, you will be able to find our Freedom Agenda. And top on our Freedom Agenda is our CLEAR initiative. It's basically lining out our transparency process, our relief and remedy process, and then a reform process to make sure this never happens again. This includes forming an independent commission to go back and expunge the records of people who were wrongly convicted, fined, and go through the process of giving restitution to those who had their businesses shut down. We also need to go back and review the process to make sure that we have learnings from this process, and then put into law things that will limit this from ever happening again. Reforming MDHHS and making sure that the governor has to come back to the legislature for emergency powers, because that was the best, or actually the worst instance of executive overreach from congressional government that I think we've seen in the nation.
Very good, thank you.
Switching topics now to the sanctity of life. What are your views on abortion? And should the current law requiring parental consent for minors to have an abortion remain?
Ralph, you go first on this one.
Yes, my view on abortion is that there are no exceptions other than saving the life of the mother. If we're going to talk about the baby dying or the mother dying, it would be a life for life, and I would not even call that abortion. I would call that a sacrifice on behalf to save the mother's life. What I am saying is this: we can win this battle. Everybody up on the stage has political consultants that are telling them to not talk about abortion. If you talk about abortion, you're not going to get elected. That's what they're hearing. We've checked websites, we've checked their hand cards. Friends, I am talking about this issue because we cannot afford to lose this. I cannot sit back and watch people say, well, it's in the Constitution. I'm going to fight about this every day that I'm governor. I'm going to speak out against it. And if we lose this, we're going to lose your right as parents. So yes, the answer to that is parental rights totally end this whole issue. And the problem is with what happened during this during Proposal 3, reproductive freedom for all simply means this: that parents can have no idea what's going on in the life of their children. And that's why I'm going to fight for it, because you guys deserve to know what's going on in your children's lives.
Very good, thank you. Mike.
Well, parental consent has survived this abomination that came into our Constitution 4 years ago. But let me tell you something that no consultant ever told me to do. As a 19-year-old Marine, I had an unplanned pregnancy. I was with a young woman and we actually faced the choice. And we chose life. That's who I am. And I defended life. I defended the partial birth abortion ban up to the Sixth Circuit, and we lost. But then my wife reintroduced it when she was in the legislature. And thank God I chose life, because I now have a beautiful 43-year-old daughter, Lindsay, and 2 grandchildren. No one's telling me what to view or believe. I am pro-life 100%. Thank you.
I really appreciate the question. I'm pro-life, and I'll always fight to defend the rights and the lives of mothers and babies. I am going to, in addition to that, make sure that women have more and better choices than life and death, making sure that they have better health care options, better economic options, better educational options, so that we can make sure that we can have life in abundance. These are the types of things that the other side isn't talking about. They want to draw us in when they have the more extreme position. And as a result of that ballot initiative, now they are using that to infringe further upon your rights as parents. That a stranger could actually put your daughter in a position where they could be abused and they would never know about it. That's wrong. And so we must protect life of the mother and the baby, and we must make sure that your rights are protected, and a stranger cannot abuse your daughter without your knowledge. In either case, we go after the predator and hold him accountable.
Thank you very much. Very good. Okay, Eric?
Yeah, I'm pro-life, and when you hear whether it's the first heartbeat of your firstborn, or whether you go through a miscarriage where I couldn't be next to my wife like I had to 6 years ago, you understand how valuable life actually is. And this is the reason why I think there's just, over the last 8 years, we've seen this battle against life, against having the value of life. And you've seen that with Governor Whitmer
and the Democrats in Lansing that have had a full-out assault on providing actually women a real choice of actually being able to fund pregnancy resource centers. They've been at war with that. And you know, with Jocelyn Benson, the Democrats, if they win this fall, it's going to get worse. We need to stand up, and we need to make sure that we give these women a real choice, and that's what we're going to do as your next governor.
Should teachers be allowed to refer students to Planned Parenthood or other abortion providers without parental knowledge or consent?
And that will be Mike's first.
Absolutely not. And it's an issue that is not talked about enough. Do you know that is the state of the law here in Michigan? That's been the state of law since 1974. And if you want to stand up for your conscience, your right to conscience, and your religious beliefs, recognize that most of you are homeschoolers. But for other parents, we need to undo that law. No child at 14 should be able to get free contraceptive from the schools without the parents knowing. No child should be counseled on mental health without the parent knowing. But that is the state of law since 1974. But we're not going to change that. We're not going to change that unless we have a governor who can actually, has run a state government and actually done something before. Stood up for life. Stood up against big energy, big insurance, and big utilities. We need a governor who's going to be a fighter and a winner. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the ultimate question in August. Thank you.
Very good.
The answer to your question is no, period.
No.
I was wondering if we were going to the lightning round, but I would say absolutely not.
Okay. Did you want to say something else, Eric?
I just want to say that this is really the challenge of our time, is are you going to co-parent with the government or not? And some with young kids, absolutely not. You cannot allow this to happen, to co-parent with the government. People want government in the background, not in the foreground. They don't want folks telling them what to do. They want, as I travel around the state and meet with families, they want schools that work, roads they can drive on. If they want to start a business, they don't want to wait forever to get a permit. And they want to be able to raise their kids in the values that they see fit. So enough's enough with this. Let's put government on the background and get it out of the foreground with us. That's how you make sure everybody can make it here in Michigan.
Very good. Thank you.
So I'll take the rest of my 28 seconds. So in order to do that, our plan is to have 2,000 buyouts from the fourth branch of government. Those non-elected bureaucrats who make your life and my life miserable. The people who are in the health department that Mike mentioned, that when Whitmer got shut down by the Supreme Court in April, that she then weaponized the medical department to go out against businesses and so forth. So we're going to get rid of 2,000 of those people. It's going to save you money in the budget, and it's going to help us cut down $11 billion out of it.
Very good. Thank you. All right, final question in the first round is Eileen's.
So, we are going to pivot to the economy, because the economy affects everyone in this room. Please describe your overall economic philosophy, including your views on repealing the property and/or income tax.
John, you'll start on that one, sir.
Wow, that's a massive question. So the only thing that I've ever seen that can change a culture is leadership. We need to change the philosophy, environment, and culture to make Michigan a more business-friendly state. We need the tax, tort, and regulatory reform to make it a more hospitable environment for businesses of all sizes to grow. We need to focus on retention of the businesses that we have, then reclamations on what we lost, and that's the best way to attract or to recruit additional business. And then we need a small business culture where we invest in flesh and blood, not just in brick and mortar, focusing on things like contracts and compliance and access to capital that will help all businesses to grow and thrive. We need to repeal efforts to increase your tax rate. That includes personal income tax, that includes property tax, and that also includes the corporate tax rates. all of which would follow red states led by Republican governors that are growing. So that's a massive question, and hopefully I hit the larger topics of that: culture, environment, philosophy, and also lowering our taxes, corporate, personal income, and property.
Very good. Eric?
The last 8 years under Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing, it's just been tough for families to make it here in Michigan. The average family makes $9,000 less than the average family does nationally. And people feel it. I was up north a little bit ago. There was a guy that moved from Tennessee to Michigan. And he started adding up his bills on energy, insurance, and property taxes. And he says, figures paying $5,000 more per year for the privilege of living here in Michigan. You don't find many of these people because Tennessee is a right-to-work state, no statewide income tax, no statewide property tax. As your next governor, I'm going to lower the cost for working families by repealing the state property tax, by repealing the Green New Scam and forcing utilities to lower their cost by $1 billion, and by repealing auto no-fault to lower the cost of auto insurance here in the state. That's how you make sure you get out of the doldrums of Governor Whitmer and Benson and make sure that families can actually make it here in Michigan again.
Very good. Thank you.
If you go to revampforgovernor.com, click on the blueprint, and you'll see everything that's listed. It is not talking points, folks. It is actually action items. That's what you're going to find. That's what we're going to do. You can hold my feet to the fire on it, because I'm going to hold my feet to the fire on it. But to answer that question, it would take more than just 1 minute. But I'm going to focus on property tax. Carla Wagner has been going around the state for about 4.5 years promoting the abolition of property tax. I got on board with her about 3 or 4 years ago as well, and we did different events together. But the reason why property tax is so important to remove is it helps everybody in the state. If income tax is removed and you're on a fixed income, it won't give you anything in your pocket. You will not get $47.47. In fact, one of the guys on my team said he's on a fixed income, he won't get $47.47, but if property tax was removed, he'll get $8,000 back each year. So that's why we're working on it, because it'll help young people get into a home. It'll help people not lose their house if they lose their spouse. It'll help businesses want to come here.
First, we have to win in November, but then we have to act, because culture follows act. That's what I learned in Marine Corps boot camp. We started acting like Marines, and eventually we became them. So what do we need to do? We need to do what the most successful states in America do. 9 of them have no income tax. I was the first one to propose eliminating it. I declared on tax day. To go to my website, MikeCox2026.com, and you will see the plan, 50 pages of ideas. But what does eliminating the income tax do? Puts more money in your pockets. It allows young couples, your children, your grandchildren, the ability to buy their first home, right? To stay here, right? Because we want to keep our kids here. What else does it do? There's 900,000 small businesses. I learned this over the past 15 years when I started my own business and grew it to 25 employees. They are the driver of the economy. They create 2/3 of all new jobs. So if we want to create prosperity to keep our kids here and for Michigan to flourish, we have to eliminate the income tax. Thank you very much.
Mike is next. Okay, we're going to move to the lightning round, and we're actually a little bit behind time. We're doing pretty good, but if you guys could keep to yes or no, that would be great. Expounding, but you got 30 seconds max, and anything you can cut off from that would be a great help. So, Mike?
So our first question in the lightning round is concerning education. Over the years, there have been many efforts to test and add other regulations, including registration, to home education in Michigan. Do you see a need for this, and why or why not?
Well,
It'll be Eric first.
Yeah, as somebody who was homeschooled, my mom homeschooled me for a few years and homeschooled my sisters for all through school until they graduated. That this is personal to me and my family, and this was late 80s when they were real early on, signing up with the Homeschool Defense Fund and providing that choice. But it's so important that we make sure we preserve the rights of the parents and the individuals. And this is the challenge. If Benson and the Democrats win this fall, it's going to be tough for all of us.
Okay, very good. Ralph?
The answer is no. We do not need government regulation on our homeschool families or Christian school families or charter schools. We do not need government involvement in that. The parents in a homeschool environment, having seen it, having worked with it as a grandpa working with our grandkids, the parents are far more involved, far more engaged. Our kids were just in Farmington. Two of our grandkids want to play volleyball, and there's an administrator there who said, well, you got to take 6, 7 classes during the middle of the summer in order to play. And these kids are smarter. My grandkids tested 1270 on the SAT. The average at Farmington's 950, and they finally said, okay, we don't have to, you don't have to take those classes.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, this man right over here in 1983 cleared the way for no registration, no curriculum, and no certification of teachers, meaning parents can be parents. And why would we ever undo that when the studies tell us that homeschool kids score 60 to 85%, that means, what, 20 to 40% higher than kids in public schools. So no, no, and no.
Okay, good. John?
No to the registry.
Okay.
Would you commit to consulting with MiCHN, the homeschool organization in Michigan, and CTV when considering any new laws or policies that will affect home educators in Michigan?
And that will start with Ralph.
Most definitely. I'm endorsed by Lee Bortons from Classical Conversations. You should have gotten that in your bag. If you didn't, we have some cards on that. But definitely would consult. I know Israel Wayne. Our families have been involved in homeschool Firebirds, and so yes, we talk about this stuff every day on how to make sure Michigan stays open to homeschoolers.
Mike?
Yes, of course I would. I did when I was Attorney General. I also consulted with charter schools. I consulted with religious groups on religious freedom and liberty issues. And I would do again. In fact, I can't remember if it was you, David, but I got involved in the fight for a case called Christian Legal Society versus Martinez, which was a radical plan on a law school in California, went up to the Supreme Court for religious liberty. So yes, I would. Thank you.
Very good.
And John?
Yes, I will, happily.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, if somebody who's homeschooled, somebody went to Hillsdale College, I recognize the importance of making sure that we protect religious liberty, that we have a governor that actually is open for folks of religious beliefs and protect those freedoms that we hold dear as we celebrate 250 years of the country. And we have to hold dear and preserve for the next generation.
Very good.
This has been touched on a bit, but the State Board of Education, as you know, just voted against the new federal education freedom program that provides tax credits for donors to privately funded scholarship organizations. This will allow K-12 public, private, or homeschool parents to receive grants for educational needs. Governor Whitmer will decide whether to opt Michigan in, but she has not yet taken a position. As the next governor, will you allow Michigan to participate? Why or why not?
All right, that starts with Mike.
Well, 2 months ago, every Republican candidate, every candidate for governor was invited to face 1,000 MEA union members in Detroit. No one showed up. And I went there and talked about, as governor, I would opt in. I would opt in. In fact, even crazy Kathy Hochul in New York has opted in, right? So we need to get more money to our kids and more money to parents to make choices, the right choices for their family.
Very good. Okay, John?
Yes, of course I'd opt in. I helped write the law. Within the first 6 months I was in Congress, I helped write the law, and I'm excited to opt in on day one.
Governor Whitmer hasn't. Jocelyn Benson won't. Governor Nesbitt will on day one. We're going to join with President Trump to make sure that we keep $500 million a year here in Michigan to help fund real school choice for parents and for families, and to keep these dollars local instead of sending them to Washington, D.C. As your next governor, we'll get it done.
Ralph?
Yes, I would. I am in favor of the tax credit, but let me just tell you something, folks. This is the way government works. You pay your tax to your local people. They send it to Lansing. Lansing takes it, whatever. Then they send you something back at the end of April and says, "Oh, great, you overpaid." How about if we just remove property tax? You don't have any strings attached from the government saying you have to spend this money for your kids. It's going to follow the kid. You know, if the money never leaves your hand in your pocket, you are in control of it the whole time. That's my goal. No boundaries.
We have two more questions on the life issue and then two more that are personal. If you could make the next two just yes or no, that would be great. So, Mike?
Okay, switching to the life questions, the easy yes or no one. Should Planned Parenthood receive state funding?
Starting with John.
No.
Eric?
No. Absolutely not.
And Mike?
No, I would stand up to say no, but my Fitbit tells me I'm over 10,000. So no.
All right. Thank you. All right. And then the next one, Dave?
There have been many efforts to legalize physician-assisted suicide all around the country. National organizations are pushing this. 13 states have already done it. As governor, will you commit to vetoing any legislation that would legalize physician-assisted suicide in Michigan?
And that will start with John.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I have a veto pen that will not only veto the budget, but it'll veto unrighteousness.
And Mike?
Yes, as I stood for life when I raised my daughter as a 19-year-old Marine, I will stand for life to the end of natural life, as I did with my beloved mom who just died 2 months ago at 94. It was a blessed life, and it was a life worth living to the very last day.
Very good. Okay. The last two could be longer, but keep them to 30 seconds. Eileen.
Okay, kind of a fun one. Please tell us your favorite author and or your favorite book.
That will be Eric.
Oh, the last one I just read was Donald Trump's Art of the Deal.
All right, Ralph?
I would say my favorite author is C.S. Lewis, and my favorite book is the Bible.
There you go. Mike?
Oddly enough, my favorite author is John Steinbeck. He wrote The Grapes of Wrath. My parents were immigrants. My mom was a maid. My dad was a carpenter. And I empathize with the common folk as they tried to fight a government that abandoned them and find religion on the way to California.
Very good. And John?
I don't know who the author is, but Good Night Construction Site is probably, whoever wrote that is my favorite author. I don't get to spend very much time with my kids, but the times that I spent reading with them are the ones that I will cherish for the rest of my life, and hopefully they do the same. And favorite book, of course, is the Bible, because it's the infallible Word of God.
Very good. And the last question.
Our final question. Who is your most admired person in America's history?
And that will be Ralph to start.
I can't remember how I answered this at the last one. I believe it was, I think I said Donald Trump. He's one of the strongest men that has ever inspired me. I mean, I love Abraham Lincoln, I love George Washington, but Donald Trump in my generation, when I saw him come down the elevator and I had seen him before Fox News, he made so much sense, and that's the way I would govern the state.
Okay, Mike?
George Washington, he could have been a king, and he left. Without him, we would not have the government that we have today, of the people, for the people, and by the people. His exercise of discretion set this nation on the right path for the succeeding 200 plus years.
Okay, very good. John?
I think you're looking up here at the stage at 4 men who agree with you probably on 99% of things. We're all in the same team. We want the same things for our state, for our country. I'm going to agree with Mike on this one. George Washington, for the exact same reason. Executive restraint in strong contrast to the abomination we've seen out of Lansing the past 7 years. Recognizing that we have a republic and doing what's required to protect it is what I will do as your governor in his vein as well.
Very good.
So as you celebrate 250 years as a country,
It's a reminder that we're a young country with the oldest constitution in the world. You're right, George Washington set us out on this path, but it's been Donald Trump that's working to preserve it for the next generation and to make sure that we can do it for another century and a century after that. Because the attacks that we've seen from the radical left, the assassination attempts on his life, I think it's something where we need to continue to give him the respect that he deserves and stand by him as we save our nation. Next, we're going to save our state.
Okay, very good. Okay, that concludes the panel question times, and now we're going to move to the closing statements by each candidate. Same order that we did the opening statements. So Eric, you get to go first on that. 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up. That's the first step of winning back our state, is showing up and beating the Democrats and Jocelyn Benson this fall. We've seen what Jocelyn Benson is about. The worst Secretary of State ever. We got to stand up and make sure she's defeated this fall, because we're at a crossroads, guys. The state can either become poorer, less prosperous, with worse educational outcomes, or we can actually stand up and take our state back. This is the year to do it, and I'm going to be the governor to take the lead to make sure that happens. I'm running for governor so that I'm going to stand with President Trump to have everybody be able to make it here in Michigan. Right now, our families are struggling. We hear it. They're being squeezed. High cost of energy, high cost of insurance, high property taxes. As I travel around the state, I've been to all 83 counties, I hear that day after day after day. And you see it on the borders, people struggling, especially as you look across the other way. I was meeting with a restaurant owner a little bit ago, down in Adrian, and they said, this is my last day. I'm closing up shop, 12 people are losing their jobs. I'm going back to Ohio. I just can't make it in Michigan anymore. And I asked her why. Why is that? She goes, well, I barely survived COVID, but over the last few years with what's coming out of Lansing and the Democrats and Governor Whitmer, the new mandates, the new bureaucracy, the higher taxes, I just can't make it in here anymore. I'm moving to Ohio. And you hear these stories across the state. It's never reported by broadcast media. They're ignored. Those voices are ignored. I'm going to give them their voices. That's why I'm running for governor, is to abolish the state property tax, to repeal the Green New Scam, to make sure that we stop this industrialization of hundreds of thousands of acres of our farm and forest land, to make sure that we lower the cost of insurance by repealing auto no fault. That's how you make sure families can make it here in Michigan. But boy, I've told you, as a farm boy, I hear from job creators all across the state. It's just tough for them to make it here, invest here, grow here. Whether it's that farmer a few weeks ago up in Lapeer that I talked to, beef farmer with a stock trailer, takes his beef to the auction house, comes back, he gets a letter from Governor Whitmer's environmental regulators saying that manure that's left in that stock trailer is they consider industrial solid waste and should be landfilled. I call BS on that, figuratively and literally. You got to take a torch, a flamethrower to the bureaucracy here in Lansing to make sure that our job creators can actually make it here again. But it's our kids. We see it with the sexualization of our kids, the woke indoctrination. As your next governor, I'm going to repeal the woke DEI trans nonsense, stand with President Trump to deport every criminal illegal, and make sure we ban sanctuary cities. That's how you make sure everybody can make it here in Michigan.
Well, I'm honored to be here today, and I'm most honored that you came to share your time with us today. As somebody who has been called, who's been called to use his blessings to be a blessing to others, I'm excited for the opportunity to serve you. I remember a while ago when I was flying combat missions in Iraq, I got a call for help. I got a call for assistance. And someone who was over the radio taking direct fire, taking direct contact. And so we were able to get our resources using our training and our perspective to be able to neutralize the enemy to help those people in need who are fighting their fight on the ground. The same thing is true here. You are on the front lines of freedom. Nothing less than our civilization itself is under attack by the communists. It is up to us to stand up for what's right, for our values, and for the sake of our republic. Having someone who is in the position and with the ability, someone who's been fighting for his entire life, not for himself, but for each one of you, is someone who is in the best position to help you to restore Michigan, to restore hope, to restore family, to restore wellness, to restore trust, and to restore the things that we hold dear. The state that people came to for a better life, for better opportunities. We don't have to imagine what that looks like. We just have to remember. Get back to the core of what it means to be Michiganders and have somebody in the position to actually fight and win for us. So I'm excited to have this opportunity, focusing on the elements, the fundamentals, like economic mobility, public safety, educational excellence, accountable government, and public safety. These are the basics that we all would unite behind and make sure that we have the resources necessary for you to be successful and you to win. I am going to be a facilitator of your success because ultimately an extension of popular sovereignty is local control and your ability to determine your future. So thank you all for being here. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you out there.
I'm running for governor of Michigan because nobody has fixed it yet. Career politicians, businessmen and women, attorneys have not fixed this. You all know that. I was on Tim Skubik's show a few weeks ago, and he made the statement, put out an article saying, Ralph's running as a pastor. There's never been a pastor in Michigan as governor. Well, that's not true. Our fourth governor was a pastor. He took us from the territory into statehood. It was an amazing thing that he did. But friends, I'm running because people are telling me all over the state, and I am too, that they are tired of 1% of the population choosing a candidate, anointing the candidate, buying the airwaves, giving you the entire program that they want you to follow. This is our last chance, folks. This is not a midterm election, and I trust that everybody leaves here realize it. It's not a midterm election. This is an election to save our state. And if you want to save your children's future, you really need someone who's going to stand up for them. I've done that my whole life. That's what I'm all about. I understand, don't hinder the little children from coming to me. I understand people should have a millstone hung on their neck, and I just think of these people who are indoctrinating our kids. They should have that. These people are screwing up those children's lives. They're screwing up their lives with burdening them with the debt that we have in this state. Unless we have somebody who's an outsider like myself, I'm not beholden to anyone in the establishment. They haven't given me any money. I'm just telling you, I am here to represent the Lord. And I'm convinced that God has raised every one of you up for this moment. I can't do this by myself. I have a group of pastors that are standing with me and behind me. I have people who are preppers, people who are Republicans, county chairs who are saying, Ralph, we're behind you. Keep going, keep going, keep going. But God has raised you up. He needs an Esther. He needs a Mordecai, a Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to say, enough of the idolatry of this culture. We're going to change this. Some of you in this room have been praying for me, or praying like me, for decades for this state. That God would open up the doors of his grace and mercy and show people in this state what Jesus meant when he said, I've come that you might have life and live it to its fullest. Under this current administration and the people that have administered, it's decline. If you keep doing the wash, rinse, and repeat, keep sending the same people back to Lansing, you will never see any substantial change. And we need systemic change right now, friends. Our founders pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I know where I'm going when I die. Jesus paid for my sins. I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to everyone in this room, and actually to everyone who lives in Michigan, that we will accomplish these things.
I grew up very, very wealthy. My dad was a carpenter, an immigrant. My mom was a maid, an immigrant. And they came to America. And then they came to Michigan because Michigan was the greatest state in America just a generation ago. Just a generation ago. And it can be again. But we must choose someone like we did in 2024 who will fight and win for our cause. As I said, in November, freedom is on the ballot. But in August, leadership and winning and fighting is on the ballot. Don't get it twisted. You know, there's a stereotype that Irish like to fight. And we do. We do. In fact, my parents always taught me, we were struggling in a little 900 square foot house, but they said, Michael, you can be rich, you can be strong if you always try and do the right thing and you fight. And that's why I joined the Marine Corps, where I learned how to lead a team of Marines. And then I went on to be a 13-year homicide prosecutor in the city of Detroit, leading all the homicide prosecutions there. And that's where I learned tenacity. And then I was recruited by charter school advocates to run against a Republican who was against that cause, and I beat him. And then I went on to beat Gary Peters, the only Republican who's ever beat Gary Peters in the closest statewide race. And someone said to me, well, you just won by a little bit of margin. Be careful. And I said, no, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be bold. And that's why I stood and fought for the partial birth abortion ban. That's why I said to Secretary of State, you cannot issue driver's license to illegal immigrants anymore and dilute the votes of voters or citizens. That's why I fought with Blue Cross to save hundreds of millions of dollars for seniors. That's why I fought with the utilities and saved over $3 billion rate hikes. So if you want someone who's going to stand up for freedom, if you want someone who's going to stand up to the elites, by the way, I led the charge to put an affirmative action ban in our Constitution in 2006. So I fought wokeism before it even had a name. So if you want a fighter and you want someone who's actually going to win, these are all good men here. I believe they all have servants' hearts. But you need a warrior if we're going to win next year and the coming 8 years. Because we cannot survive. We cannot survive 8 more years of this decline. Can we? Absolutely not. And I pledge to you, as I pledged and swore as a young Marine, I will fight for you, and I will defend the Constitution, and I will deliver each and every day. I'm proud to say when that President Trump, when he needed a fighter to protect his election against Secretary of State Benson, he hired a fighter, me. I'm proud to say I stood with Unlock Michigan. I will lead with your help. We will beat a team, and we will become great again. Thank you very much.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you to join me in honoring these 4 men. They have put themselves out there. They are burning the midnight oil. They care about this state. They care about you. And they are worthy, all of them, worthy of honor. So could you please join with me in giving a round of applause for our 4 men?